Hello, welcome. Uh, I'm Chantal. I am a hand in hand certified instructor, and today I'm talking to another wonderful hand in hand certified instructor. I'll get you to introduce yourself, Sophie.
Yeah, hi Chantal, I'm Sophie. I've been a handyman instructor for the last 4 and 5 years. I'm a mom of five, and I managed to find time this morning just to get the kids ready to school, and then I'm more than happy to hop in for a call with you, Chantal.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And as you said, with five children, amazing work. So yes, I'm a parent of two, and so I've been with Hand in Hand since 2017 as a certified instructor, and then before then as a long-term fan. What about you? When did you start with us?
I think it all started in I would say 2019 was kind of a few months before the birth of my little number five. And I was
Okay.
desperately trying to find a way to kind of handle the kind of chaotic kind of state of my house. And then I took a starter class and I loved it. And I managed to find the book Listen. And after that, I was like, okay, I need to know more about that. And that's how I kind of decided to attend and do my certification as an instructor.
Awesome. And what was your biggest parenting challenge before you discovered Hand in Hand?
Um, I would say it was probably the fact that I was kind of more and more kind of seeing myself as I would say a pretty tough mom. So I was full of love for my kids, but I was kind of, having a hard time being kind of as kind of to be the kind of laughing and caring mom that I wanted to be. I was doing
Mm.
what needed to be done, but I felt that there was no, you know, not enough kind of fun in my house, not enough laughter going on. And I thought, well, there's just something that is missing in there. And I could see the look of my kids when they were kind of looking at me and they were a bit like, I wouldn't say afraid, but a little bit like, am I doing the right thing? And I thought, well, that's wrong. That shouldn't be the kind of look I get from my kids every time. And that's how everything started, I would say. I had
Yeah,
to do
well,
something about that.
yeah, wow. And do you think that that had anything to do with feeling like you did need to be tough, or um,
I think it had to do with the fact that I mean the way I was raised as a kid was probably a little bit like very, I would say, authoritarian, meaning that um for my mom, things had to be done on time, on target, if you see. And so I had the feeling that it was the only way to get stuff done,
Mm.
to be a little bit tough. And tough, I mean by having very clear routine, having rules. And this is great. This is a nice kind of, framework for kids. But you also need to add a little bit of fun, a little bit of flexibility as well. And I felt that I was missing that. And
Mm.
I couldn't find a way to do that. And the only good thing for my kids is that my husband had this kind of thing. So he had this
Mm.
kind of, he was very good at getting the giggles going on in the house. He was very good at adding this touch of fun. And I was starting to be a little bit jealous of him. Like, how
Mm.
does he do that?
Yeah, that's fair enough because yeah, you don't want to be stuck in those two different roles and missing out
Exactly.
on those things. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's it. That's it. And the question was, how do you kind of reconcile both roles together so that it
Mm.
just makes something that just works for your family, works for you, and works for your kids?
Yeah. And it's great that you had that at least. A lot of people have to start completely from scratch, but if you have two of you bringing these, like the positives of each of those together, it's really great to be able to
Yeah,
work.
no, that was a good thing. But I was still feeling there was something wrong, and I felt
Mm.
that this is not the type of relationship I want to have with my kids. So at
Mm.
that time, when I started to think about how could I do things differently, my eldest daughter was probably around 9 or 10, and I thought, in a few years' time, she will start like, being a teenager and everything, and things needs to be kind of done before she start that because I want to start on a good ground. And I had the
Mm.
feeling that my foundation was a little bit too weak or not exactly what I wanted actually. So
Mm.
things had to change. So there was a little bit of a kind of, exercise against the clock there. Well, I realized, okay, let's start as soon as possible.
Yeah. And that's great as well to just point out that yeah, you can start wherever you are. Sometimes it feels like, oh gosh, I wish I'd known this, 9 years ago, and what do I do now? But you can start wherever you're at, and that's what I do
I
love
I
about
totally agree
handicap.
because at the end of the day, so I started with my daughter, she was 9, and then I also started with my basically newborn when it was just,
Mm.
3 hours, and I was already stay listening to him. And so it works, you know, magnificently in both cases.
Yeah.
It's a different type of work, whether you start at 9 or at like, 1 month old or whatever, but it does work. It does
Mm.
work, definitely.
Right. And how do you help parents who feel like they've tried everything and nothing's been working?
Oh, it's something where, you know, I would say that I've learned probably the hard way that you need to bring a little bit of kind of humor, a little bit of fun around this kind of question around I can't do that. It's too hard. I won't make it. And there is something at hand in hand that for me has been absolutely essential is the fact that you can only listen to your kids if you get listened yourself as a parent by another parent. And so when parents come to me and say, I've really tried everything with my son, or I've tried everything with my daughter and nothing seems to work. I try to follow the rules in this book, but doesn't do the trick. Every time I can guarantee in this book, there is nowhere something like listening partnership that is being kind of offered or described as a tool. And so basically the step number one every time is going to be just offering some listening time to this parent so it can kind of offload the pressure and the frustration and everything. And I found it on a very regular basis that you can do it sometime you have to do it and you feel the parent is pretty, very upset and very serious about it. And then in that case you have to follow that and help him with that. But sometime you can add a little bit of fun, a little bit of exaggeration, a little bit of laughter around feeling so dramatically kind of having the feeling that you're kind of failing as a parent and everything. And I found that adding a little bit of, you know, of fun and of of laughing around that can help tremendously. So that next time you feel you're not the perfect parent, you remember this kind of moment of fun you had in your listening partnership around, well, maybe I'm not the worst parent in the world, kind of thing. And this helps a lot just to kind of put things in perspective because
Mm.
as a parent, when you're most of your time on your own taking care of kids, you lose very easily, sight of the biggest picture. And sometimes you get really stuck into the moment where you're like, no, this needs to be done this way. If it doesn't get done this way, I'm bad mom. And sometimes having this kind of change of perspective, remembering what happened during your listening time with your listening partner, help you kind of put things in perspective and say, oh, maybe maybe that's fine. Maybe as long as there is a connection with my son, maybe I don't need to stick to this rule for now, and it's still fine. And this
Mm.
this this has helped parents tremendously.
Yeah, yeah. So just a brief rundown for anyone who's new to listening partnerships. That is one of the five hand-in-hand connection tools, and it is so unique to us, really, isn't it? And that's
Yeah.
where you and another adult exchange an agreed upon amount of time to listen and be listened to. And you through that process, you can do it however you like. So, like Sophie suggested, it might be talking about what would it look like if you were the worst person in the world, the worst parent in the world? What does that look like? And when you sort of talk about those sorts of things, you can sometimes find the laughter and you can find the, well, okay, obviously I'm not that bad. And you can recall that later. And also things like just freeing up some wisdom. It's amazing just sometimes even just having no plan in a listening partnership and seeing where it takes you and finding real pearls and really managing to transform something that you might not have even known you were working on when you started.
Yeah, and that's something that, and maybe a small anecdote here. I mean, so often in my listening partnership, I've noticed that I was having kind of a behavior with one of my kids, and I was feeling myself very guilty about that. And every time one of my listening partner asked me this really like key question of where, Sophie, how was it for you as a kid when you were the same age as your son? And every time I was like just taking back in time and I was like, picturing a situation where my mom or my dad was kind of acting in a way that was so similar to the way I was acting now with my kids. And
Mm.
every time I could really relate to that and realize that I was basically mimicking what I had received as a kid. So, in a way, then at the end, I was feeling less guilty because I was like, well, that's how things had worked for me in my family, whether it was good or not, but that's what I'm reproducing now. So if I'm just reproducing something, it means that I can break that pattern and find my way as well. And that was very, very liberating. And having somebody in my listening partnership telling to me, Sophie, maybe this should not have gone, it should have been going another way. Maybe you were deserving something different. Maybe your parent didn't have time to do this or that, but you were you would have definitely deserved another kind of issue to that or another kind of outcome to that issue. And that was like, oh, you're right. And suddenly you feel you're being heard. It
Mm.
means that next time your kind of kids is kind of facing this kind of situation or issue, the way you're gonna approach this is with a lot of, I would almost say like forgiveness already,
Mm.
without any words being exchanged. You're like, okay, I get
Yeah.
it, and I'm gonna approach it in a slightly different way. That
Yeah.
that that, that has been absolutely crucial for me.
Oh, yeah, amazing. And yeah, that particular what was going on when you were at your child's age, I've also had breakthroughs with that just completely floored me. So we're getting close to our certification round opening. So that will be our training program. If you want to do some intensive training with Hand in Hand, we have a 10-month course that we can offer from the 1st of from September, but we are open for applications on the 1st of April. The only prerequisite is that you have to have done one of our foundation courses, which is the personal one for individuals, the one for educators, or the one for professionals. So Sophia and I did that. At the time, it was a starter course. So if you've done that, that's a tick. And so then we both decided that we wanted to be Hand in Hand certified. And so I would love to know, Sophie, was there anything about that process and going into the certification and that intensive training that felt daunting? And how did you move through that? And what would you say to someone else who was sort of sitting there going, oh, I think I want to do this?
Yeah, so there was something that was like a little bit like, yeah, I felt like, am I gonna make it? Is it not gonna be too much for me? So there was this feeling around, maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much information going into my head. And I remember like the first kind of two sessions I had, I think we have a monthly call and we also have some kind of weekly coaching session. And I remember after the kind of third of this call, I was like, I don't even remember the name of the five tools. I was like, oh my goodness, if even that is an issue, how am I going to make it through? So I remember having a lot of doubt around, am I going to be able to absorb all this information? And then what happened is that what I loved about the certification program that made it very, very smooth for me is the fact that, so of course you've got some personal work to do, but every week you meet with your mentor and a group of, I think it was 4 or 5 other candidates. And that's where actually you do a lot of the work around processing these feelings and asking any question you need as well from the kind of and document you need to read. And it's what has been really helpful for me is all the kind of listening times I received on a weekly basis that helped me work through my feeling, getting from my other kind of colleagues and the coach that you're gonna get through and you're doing great. And having that has been so helpful, really.
Mm.
And as Chantal said, it's a 10-month program, but when you reach the end of the 10 month, you're like, can we continue? Because you need that and you're used to that kind of rhythm of being kind of supported on a regular basis. So that's what has been really helpful for me. I love this kind of weekly coaching session we had. And this is what make it, really a bliss, I would say. Really,
Mm.
it's fantastic. It's a fantastic program. I highly recommend.
Yes, so yeah, we do highly recommend you go ahead and look into that with us. It has actually changed slightly, so we're at right now at the precipice of it changing a bit. So when you talk about the that final qualification, there is now a way that you can take this a little bit more at your own pace. We won't go into that now, but just so you are aware. So any interest you have in sort of coming and being here one day with us with all this passion and drive and just all the things that we're doing out in the community and in our families. If that looks like it's something you want to do, please get in touch and ask us for more information. As you can tell, we really love talking about this. And I want to thank you, Sophie, for sharing your
Yeah, thank you very much,
wisdom.
Chantal.
Yeah, and also just showing that all the amazing things you can do with 5 children. And one of my favorite articles of all time is the special time article you do. I know that one of our tools, special time, is intensive one-on-one playtime, and some people can't fathom how they can fit that in their life with more than one child, or with only one partner, and all those different sort of things that can get in the way. And I love that you've given us some wisdom on that. So thank you, Sophie. Thanks for hanging out with me, and thank you for everything you do. And thank you
Thank you
all
very
the
much, Chantal.
thank you, and thank you all the wonderful people who've tuned in to be with us for this chat. Really appreciate you.